Did you know that you have guardian angels protecting and redirecting your life and giving you guidance every day and you don't even know it? My name's Sonia Choquette. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about guardian angels, the only guides and spirit support helpers that can actually temporarily materialize and present as human, and how they seamlessly move in and out of your life, keeping you on path, keeping you safe, keeping you going on the flow of your soul commitments. And the thing about these guardian angels that show up, some visible, some not visible, is that you feel and sense, and if you encounter a physical representation of a guardian angel, somehow you know this is not quite a regular encounter. And the other thing about those kind of encounters is then the angel disappears. So maybe that's happened to you. And because we have so little conversation about this, we don't necessarily share it with people, or if we do, we say, oh, the weirdest thing happened. When in fact, it was an actual angelic encounter, an angel giving you guidance, redirecting your life, protecting you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're new to my channel, I hope that you enjoy it, and I think you were led here. If you've come back, welcome back. Let's get to it, the ways in which guardian angels are helping you so that you can evaluate if I've had an angel visitation lately. Now, first of all, as I said, angels are the one guides that can materialize and show up for you. Archangels can, guardian angels can. And the way they do it is they often pop in out of nowhere, interact with you for a brief moment, and disappear. And they leave no way of pursuing contact, and it's all so fast and it's all so seamless that it really is like a whirlwind. But in that moment of encounter, you feel safe and seen. Now, I'm going to give you some of my encounters with guardian angels who have showed up in my life. A lot, actually, to help jog your memory of maybe some that have shown up in your life. And if so, please put in the comments that experience, because that's how we affirm one another and help elevate to a higher dimension of living. Now, I won't say my first because I've had many, but one of my strongest encounters with a guardian angel was when I was in high school. I just had my first little car, which was a 1968 Volkswagen Bug beige that lived and rolled on gas fumes. But it was my car and I loved it. And when I went on a road trip with a girlfriend of mine, and we were coming back through a snowstorm, and it was bad. We were so naive and dumb. We were driving from Chicago back to Colorado where I lived. And it was the middle of January, snowing like mad, and we were running out of gas, and it was serious. We were on Highway 80 going across Nebraska. And we were talking, and then we started praying because it was zero visibility on the radio. The little bit we could get, the highway had been closed. Well, we were talking and praying, and all of a sudden I looked up, and in the middle of the road was a woman frantically waving, and we both screamed, and I slammed on the brakes, and we spun out and drifted over to the side of the road. Now, fortunately, it's the middle of the night, like 3 a.m, there was nobody there. And so we didn't trash ourselves, we were just spun out. So we both went, oh my God, I hit someone, because how could I not? And we both got out of the car and we went looking around the snow. We could not find anyone. Getting back in the car, we regrouped, we started driving. And the next thing you know, where 10 minutes earlier, we had been hundreds of miles from Denver. The next thing you know, within 15 minutes, we are at the Colorado border and we are back in civilization. It was like a time warp. And this woman waving, she was an angel, and she warped us right through time. Now, I know that is an extraordinary story, but we had stopped for gas at midnight in the middle of Nebraska, and we had the receipt from the gas station. So we could not have loaded down in my little plug-in Volkswagen through the snowstorm, ever made it across the Colorado border in just 3 hours. It was not possible. And in fact, my girlfriend wrote in her dissertation for her master's about this time travel portal that was made possible by an angel. So I didn't care if anybody believed us. We were saved. It was a miracle. And that's when I really realized that everything I'd been studying since I was 12 years old and everything about my divine life was more real and had more miracle power than I could ever have imagined. Now, another major guardian angel appearance in my life came when I had early days of being a new mother of the second baby I had. We were renovating a house. I had 2 back-to-back babies. I was exhausted. Sleep deprivation. My second daughter, when she was a little baby, she never slept well, so I was so exhausted. The worry of the renovation kept me up. The work of the renovation, because we were doing it ourselves, it was a pile-on, and it was bad. And I was getting so sleep deprived, I was having a lot of hallucinations and headaches and breakdowns. It was not a pretty sight. So when I went to my doctor, he said, you're suffering from exhaustion and you can either be checked into a hospital and treated for it, or you give yourself a week off and just sleep. Just be away from all of this. I don't care how you do it, but those are your options. So I went, I have a sister who at the time worked for the airline, and she got me a ticket to Hawaii. And I went by myself to Honolulu in January. The first 3 days, it just rained. All I did was sleep. But I eventually got up and went out into the Honolulu beach area, even though it was pouring rain. I walked the beach for a while and got this sudden urge to turn back into town, even though I didn't know anything about the lay of the land. I no more crossed the street and walked 2 blocks in, and I'm at a metaphysical bookstore. And I thought, well, this is an angel that guided me here. When I walked in, the woman was checking in a couple products she had received. They were like aromatherapies or something. It was that kind of store. And she said, help herself, look around, let me know if you need any help. No problem. So I was browsing, and I turned the corner, and out from the back room came a guy who was coal black, beautiful man with a silvery white hat and a big silvery white kaftan. Very, very flowy. Now, it's Honolulu. So that wasn't such an unusual attire, but I do remember how white and silvery it was. And he said, hello, I've been waiting for you. And I laughed. First of all, it's Hawaii, it's the Aloha State. I'm a metaphysical bookstore, so I said, of course you have. He said, come here, I want to show you something. And he pulled out a picture of a big poster, unrolled it, and it was a picture of an angel trashed on the beach. Trashed. And I laughed. I said, oh my God, that is pretty perceptive of you. That is exactly how I feel. But he said, wait. He pulled out another poster and unraveled it. And it was a picture of a male angel lifting up the trashed female angel. And he said, get your partner. Go get your partner again. And I thought to myself, my partner, my husband at the time, we were not friendly at all. He was equally overwhelmed as I was, equally exhausted, maybe even more fearful. And we were not on the same page at all. We didn't get along, and it only added to the stress. And so I said, that's probably a good idea. A united front is going to be better for both of us. So he took a few steps and turned around and he said, and don't forget to dance, and disappeared behind the curtain. Then I smiled and thought, dance is my first love. All I wanted to be was a dancer my whole life. And he said, don't forget to dance, which frankly, I had seriously forgotten. The woman then at the counter looked up and she said, excuse me, can I help you? And I said, no, the guy in the back is helping me. And she said, pardon me? I said, the guy I was just talking to. He's helping me. And she walked around the counter looking at me very strangely, and she said, what guy? I said, the one I was just talking to, in the white kaftan, the black guy in the white kaftan and the hat. She said, there's nobody here. And then she went in the back room and she said, hello, hello. And then she came out looking at me. really freaked out like I'd lost my mind. The minute she did that and said, there's no one here, I just knew that was an angel. He came to help me because I was in serious trouble at the time. And he just came to give me some direction and some energy and a reminder of what took care of my spirit. And I said, never mind, it's okay. Because I'm looking at these two posters of angels just swoop through my body. So these kinds of things happen to people all the time. And when I was talking to him, I didn't know it was an angel. The minute he walked away, I did. There's a unique feeling about that. Now, those are two of the appearance experiences. Please write in the comments your angelic appearances, because I know I have talked about this for years, and I don't think I've ever taught a single class where someone in the class in any part of the world hasn't had some kind of an unusual encounter that upon retrospect says that was a protective divine force. That was not usual. That might have been a divine interception, an angel helping me. I have a client who was about to sign a contract to buy an apartment building and rent it out. He was so excited about it. He had gotten some money during COVID and he wanted to invest, and he was going to buy this apartment building. And on the way to the closing, he decided to pull over at a little cafe that was in the neighborhood and have a quick lunch because he hadn't eaten and he had some time to kill. So he sits on the counter, this little simple counter, and there's next to him a guy walks in and sits down. And he says, chit-chat, friendly. He starts talking and he says, I'm about to go sign a contract for this apartment building. And he said, I don't know if I should do it or not. I'm thinking it'll be really good. And this guy sitting next to him said, well, I think that through a little bit. There's going to be a lot of change in the area with some road work coming in. I'm not sure you know about it, but that's not going to be situated very well. You might want to know about that. Now, he was a first-time buyer of this kind of project. It never crossed his mind to look into development or whatever. And he said, really? Tell me more. The guy was just having a cup of coffee. He wasn't having a full lunch like my client. He said, well, I don't have time, but I'd really advise you to check it out before you go sign that deal, just so you know what you're getting into. Not ominous, not even urgent, pretty even keeled. So he left. So he Googles this whole thing and finds out there's a whole project that's in the planning that would actually put his apartment building so close to major road work that it would really lower the value and frankly the appeal in the not so distant future. So he called it off. He said that guy sitting there walked up and took a seat, told me this, drank half a cup of coffee and left. Had that not happened, I would have naively signed myself into a major, major problem, one that I probably couldn't financially recover from. It was adventurous enough for me. So he said he didn't think any of it other than what a nice guy. But after that happened, I thought, maybe that was more than a nice guy. Maybe that was a divine intervention. These kinds of redirections don't always happen in an actual physical experience. Your angels, your guardians help you with strong waves of suggestion. That's what they like to call it. Do this, don't do that. I had a client, this goes way back. We're really going quite a ways back, but in one of my clients in New York was in 2011. She was on her way to work. And she was getting a cup of coffee and decided she just got this feeling, I got to get a cup of coffee. I got to get a cup of coffee. And when she went to get the cup of coffee, she looked at her watch and she thought, I'm really risking I'm going to be late for work. Why do I need this coffee? So she stood in line for a few minutes and then she left. But she was clearly 10 minutes late for work. But by the time she was approaching the office, there were fire trucks and there were police cars, a big drama going on. And she kind of wandered up and was like, what's happening? And they said a fire broke out in the office this morning and we had to evacuate and 2 people were overcome with smoke and already at the hospital. But she had avoided the whole thing. And in the commotion, nobody even noticed she was late. In fact, they kept saying, you're so lucky that you weren't here. You're usually the first one in there. You would have been in trouble. So these kinds of divine interventions show up in strong waves, strong feelings, strong sensation. But they're not always to just save your life or protect you from some trauma. Sometimes they can be just real assists to help your life go well. I have a client who is very much unhappy in her work and she just didn't know what to do, and she kept getting these strong waves. And sometimes she got one about horses. She got one where there was a beautiful horse commercial. I don't even remember, it was a lot of horses. I think it was a car commercial, but the horses just lingered with me. I thought, this is ridiculous. This is a commercial. Then she said, I went to a bookstore to get some books for my niece and a horse book flew off the shelf and hit me on the head. Unexplainable. And it was a beautiful book. Instead of being annoyed, I opened it up and started looking at it. It was beautiful. I spent a good 10 minutes staring at that book and those photos, not thinking another thing about it. She said, then I got a postcard from a friend who was on a vacation in Arizona saying, I'm having this most beautiful vacation and I am having one of my experiences at a spa is with a therapy with a horse equine therapy. And you would love it. So it just intrigued her so much that she thought, okay, get hit by a horse book. I'm intrigued by horses. Now this, I got to follow through. So she went to the same spa and she gave herself several sessions of this equine therapy with horses and fell absolutely in love. Like she says, the best love affair of my life. And it was just only 3 hours, but enough to start talking to the equine therapist who told her how he got into it, what it was about. And she said, I knew that was my path. I knew that this was what my soul was looking for. So I quit my job and I moved to Arizona and I started training with horses so that I could be an equine therapist. And it was a long, big shift. It wasn't an instant fix. It was a massive soul commitment, but I've never been happier in my life. So these are the sorts of things and ways in which your guardian angels can get your attention. The other way is that they often show up through people, earth angels. They will show up with somebody who just out of the blue helps you out and you didn't expect it. When my daughter was 12 years old, we had Christmas, and her Christmas, because she was this, tween, she wasn't quite a teenager, she got presents like gift cards and a little purse because that was really important to her. And she wanted to go to the movies with her friends by herself. So we said, okay, you can meet your friends, you can go to the theater, but we are going to be at the mall to pick you up and we'll meet you outside of the theater in the food court right after the movie. That's the deal. So she toddles into the theater, no problem. We drove her and watched her meet her friends and go in. But when she came back to the food court, she was sobbing, just traumatized. What happened? Oh my God, what happened? She said, I lost my purse. I left my Christmas purse and all my Christmas gift cards in it in the theater. And when I went back to get it, it was gone. She was only 2 minutes. It was gone. She was inconsolable. Well, there was a group of girls about 15 feet away, and this very cute girl who looked a lot like my daughter, Sabrina, left the group of girls, came over, took Sabrina's hand, which is not what you do when you're 12 years old at the mall, looked her in the eyes, and she said, are you okay? Sabrina immediately relaxed, and she goes, I lost all my Christmas gifts. And she said, but are you okay? And she said, I'm okay. And she said, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Gave her a hug and then disappeared into the mall. Now, Sabrina stood there for like a good 30 seconds watching her. And then she turned back to us and she said, that was my angel. That was my guardian angel with as much certainty as saying, and you're my mom. And the interesting thing is, in that same experience, her inconsolable grief and loss disappeared. She was okay. There was some vibrational reset. So I can go on and on and on and on and on. But the point is, you are never alone. You have an incredible divine support system with you at all times. That guidance is available and will become more evident and obvious if you start acknowledging it. It's just like once you notice stars in the sky, you'll notice them more, but you could be walking under a starry sky for years and never look up and see them. Guides are subtle, angels are subtle, but they are there. They will protect you. So if you call on them to protect you and you acknowledge that they are there and you start recognizing the ways in which you are protected in the most, from subtle to major ways, then their energy will enter you'll raise your own vibration and recognize theirs and resonate with them, and you'll feel even more grounded, more protected, more reassured, guaranteed. So what I want you to do is, the first start is pause for a minute and think, have I had any encounters? Please, please share them, both for our sake, because the more we all start talking about the fifth dimension and these higher experiences as normal, the more people will start acknowledging them as normal. And secondly, because when you acknowledge it for you, you strengthen the frequency of higher perception and awareness. So you will start to sense their presence and their protection and their help and their love and their generosity and the messages that they're sending to you over and over again. One time I had this funny flash about the guides. It's like they're all sitting around in a phone bank, bored to death, saying, did you get any calls? Did you get any calls? And they're all shaking their head saying, no. Nobody called me today, or I got a few, but then I got to hang up. So what are we going to do? Made me laugh because I thought, I bet that's really true. Please put in your comments how you feel or have ever felt protected or guided strongly with no logical reason, or had a visitation from someone who helped you and then disappeared, because this is very much a step to fifth dimension living. If you feel disconnected, I think that it might be helpful to look at the notes. I have an access to what's called in the moment guidance. And this is a connection to your higher self, but your higher self connects you to your angelic realm. So if you need in the moment guidance or some sense of, I need some help right now, some direction, some guidance, I need something to clear the way, I need something to show me insight, then that could be maybe a beneficial boost for you. Also, one of the ways in which to get the guidance and feel the protection of angelic presence, angelic redirection, is to acknowledge, I was on my way to do this, and I ended up doing that spontaneously. That was guidance. So use that for an indication. Thanks for tuning in my channel. And if this is your first time, please like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Welcome this way. We're all working together, and I'll see you next week. All my love.